All right. Whew. Hi, my name is Jenn Clark, and it's an honor to be presenting here at a TEDx event. First off, I'd like to say thank you to all those people that made it capable for me to be here today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm gay. Surprise! I'm here to talk about humor, and more specifically, homophobic humor. Throughout this talk, I'll hopefully guide you to a better understanding of the implications that homophobic humor has on your lives and the lives of LGBT individuals. Although I strongly identify as a lesbian, and I'm quite open about it, I mean, I just can't fit in that closet anymore. I stayed in that closet for far too long. What I realized is that there's so much more room to breathe out in the open. But I understand how easy it is to keep those closet doors tightly shut. The anxiety and depression, the fear, keeps people hidden away from their true selves. What I've noticed as I got older is just how ingrained we are to our stereotypes. These stereotypes, and we're all a slave to them, are so ingrained in our minds, and they're ever unchanging. We fall parallel to our stereotypes. We identify masculine characteristics and feminine characteristics and things that we need to go forth with in interacting with our world, but a lot of the times these stereotypes are wrong. I am feminine, very feminine in nature. I've never identified as masculine, and a lot of people interact with me in a masculine form because of the hair, because of the tie. I feel as though when we think that someone's sexual orientation is aberrant, that their gender expression is as well. When we look at the climate of our schools today and how they affect our youth, for LGBT, the appearance is quite bleak. We don't understand that the way that they're going through school is navigating in a very different sense than their heterosexual counterparts. They're at higher risk for mental disorders, depression, homelessness, and up to 70% of them say that they're harassed on a daily basis with terms like, that's so gay, you're so gay, and up to 20% of them are actually physically harassed. But what I want to talk to you about today is not necessarily the impact on LGBT individuals. It's also the impact on your lives and the lives of your children. When we look at the data from all cross-wide, AGAL did this amazing study that talked about school climates for LGBT and their heterosexual youth. They found that equal numbers of heterosexuals and homosexuals are targeted because of their perceived, that's not their actual, but their perceived gender expression or sexual orientation. This is a bleak state of affairs. We need to understand that these remarks are not only impacting our LGBT youth and making it feel like that closet is a very safe space, but also that our heterosexual youth are impacted in the same way. Further research is now being looked at in what's called the bystander. And what we find is that the people who sit idly by, who don't know what to do in the face of these remarks, are showing higher signs of depression, anxiety, skipping school. So this is impacting the entire climate, not solely the lives of LGBT individuals. At this point, I'd like to believe and the definition of homophobia. So I'm only going to touch on it briefly. What I'll say is homophobia is defined as the fear or hatred of homosexuals. I'm going to ask you to think about this concept a little bit more broadly. And I'm going to ask you a question, a few questions, in fact. When did you come out as straight? It's something to think about. It's something that we don't discuss. When was the last time that you changed the pronoun of your partner to avoid detection? It's something, again, that we don't think about. I do. I have to think about it when I navigate my workspace, when I navigate my personal space, when I navigate my family space. Not so much now. I'm out. My last question for you is, how many times this week did you hear comments like, that's so gay? It's an extraordinary number. It's become part of our colloquial language today that we use this in a daily form in everyday context, and yet we don't understand the implications of it. So these are just a few examples of how homophobia is impacting the lives of all individuals, not just the LGBT community. Homophobia has become a new dynamic of dealing with the world. It has become a less in-your-face attack and more behind your back. Now, that creates some problems. It's harder to fight when it's behind you. So in the last few years, there's been an increase of gay and lesbian characters on television. And what this equates to is they're mostly on sitcoms, and the way that they're portrayed is the source of mockery. What we find is that gay men are portrayed as overly flamboyant and effeminate, and this is where we find that lesbians are portrayed the same way. They're butch, they're masculine, they're, rough and tumble and aggressive. And this isn't the case. This is, again, our stereotypes influencing our perceptions, but this is also what brings about our humor. So what we need to understand is that this humor is a way of maintaining this heterosexual ideal. We need to understand that this is not done in intentional maliciousness. However, it maintains this state of affairs that keeps those closet doors shut. Studies show that exposure to words such as "that's so gay" actually increase the negative stereotypes of gays and lesbians in your mind. That creates, again, this climate that is heteronormative. What I wonder about, though, is how does this impact us? Things like "that's so gay," effeminate men, masculine women, how does this impact us when it's put in a humorous context? So homophobia and sexism are inextricably linked through their gender roles. And in my opinion, you cannot have a discussion about homophobia without a discussion that concurrently discusses sexism. So sexism on television has actually lessened over the years, but it hasn't disappeared. What I find is that the sexism that was on TV 10 years ago would be seen as blatant, would be not funny, would be seen as this affront to women in today's day and age, and it is my hope and aspiration that we get to that point with homophobic humor as well. So what research on sexist humor shows is that we actually, if we're sitting at home and we're passively absorbing these messages on our couch, we are less likely to interact in the face of sexism in our workplace or our public spheres. So that means that a passive activity like sitting at home, eating chips on your couch, laughing at what is a funny joke, can impact your lives outside. And again, through no malicious intent, this is just a passive recipient of information. What I find is that the research on racism, the research on all other forms of disparaging humor shows the same things. They do impact our public lives. So what my message is, because I find that we often hear these messages, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, but then we are given no solutions. So I'm going to give you a solution. If we stand by and do nothing, the world will continue to exist as it does today. These implications don't just affect our LGBT individuals. They affect everyone, your children, your nieces, your sisters, your brothers, your parents, everyone. And we don't yet understand just how big an impact this is. What I'm saying is that the common form of harassment has now formed into sexual disparity. It has now formed into the most common turn of phrase that when we want to put someone down is we call them gay. This has happened recently. Just around us, a teacher was suspended due to performing a homophobic prank. I don't call it a prank. It's not a prank. It's disgusting. But this happens, and people see it as an okay thing to do. So what I'm saying is that we need to understand that tolerance is not acceptance. We cannot allow our children to go through our schools in such environments of hate. We need to accept and cherish individuality in everyone. That's what makes our world what it is. So what I'm saying is that we can no longer stand by and say it gets better in the future. We have to do something about it now. We can't say, when you grow up and you're out of school, people will accept you. That is not allowed, should not be allowed, in my opinion. We cannot continue to live in a world where we tell our children that they must live through this trauma and accept it for now, but it gets better in the future. We need to ensure that we're making their future right now. So what I want to say is that it's okay to laugh, because things are funny and we need that jovial sense. We need to have fun in our world. But what you do after that laughter is what impacts everybody else. So laugh, enjoy your show, but afterwards, have a conversation. Thank you for listening. Now go do some talking. Thank you.